nearly on time. It's going live. How long is it going to take? Oh, put that screen on. Well, hey, I think I'm live. It says I'm live, but it's usually about a 2-3 second, 2 minute delay. Oh, now I'm up there. So I'm going to try not to look confused anymore and speak into the screen. Oh, just a minute. I've got my... Oh, the volume's gone off there now, so it shouldn't be playing me back. Okay, so I've got some Sarissa Precision buildings that I've been putting together. I'm building a large 15mm sci-fi layout for a game, and I've been usually putting these up on Facebook. It's still playing me back. Just a minute. How dare it play me back? Oh, sorry about that. It's really annoying when you hear your voice about 3 seconds behind and you end up doing that daft thing where you can't really hear or see what you're doing. Anyway, so I've got 15mm stuff in front of me. I've been building this Sarissa Precision warehouse and also a smaller building, and I'm going to put them together and super detail them, adding extra stowage, even though you don't put stowage on buildings, but bits and pieces like that to make them a bit more detailed for gaming. And also I've made some changes to the building to enable better gaming as well, to enable troops to be put on top of it and various other things. And yes, I've been doing these on Facebook mostly to the 15mm sci-fi group on there, but I've been a bit disappointed with the way Facebook does streaming. I can't actually see people's comments, so I'm hoping people might say something on here and I might be able to see what's going on. So without further ado, I'll sort of dive into the building and get stuck in. Right, switching over. That button. That's it. Okay, so here is the Sarissa Precision building. Checking it's in the frame. It is in the frame. And it's a warehouse, as you can see. Actually, what I should do is grab some 15mm models while I'm at it. So just hang on for a moment. All live here, so everything could go wrong. Yeah, first classic mistake. Try and grab something and about 6 other things fall off the shelf at the same time that you don't want. Yeah, so I've got some 15mm sci-fi here. In case you've never been familiar with 15mm sci-fi, which I'm sure you are if you're on my channel, you can see how small they are. 50mm, in fact, about the size of a thumbnail of the average human person. And these buildings by Sarissa, which is a Scottish company in the UK. You can see here if I bring it up. There's an upstairs door that has a walkway that goes onto it. And you can see the little guy's about the right size to go on there. So attempting some close-up work now. If I put this by the door down here, I'm going to switch to the other little camera down here. That has worked. Should be able to zoom in without too much hassle. So anyway, if anybody out on the interweb is watching, if you wouldn't mind putting a comment in and just saying that you can hear me okay, because I get lots of complaints about my volume not being high enough. So there you go, I've just typed in hello if anybody is watching. And yeah, so you can see down here the sort of scale that we're talking about, 15mm, and how the little guy's lined up. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a view to the kind of scale. I've just got some other models in here from various companies. And these guys here, these kind of killer whale guys, are from Curacao. I think these are Curacao as well. I recently did a video on Facebook painting those. And some old Ground Zero games. Just adjusting my mic, it's a bit high up. But yeah, some of these are very old GZG. These, in fact, are some of the earliest models I've painted, these Kravac. Getting a bit chipped up now from use. So I'll give you a scout around the building. So if if we take these naffy bits off here, then I'll just sort of put on, get these 15mm models out of the way, apart from that one for reference. We can see that it has a separate roof component, and originally this was 3 sections, and I've cut it down because I wanted to extend out the use of the roof to be able to put models on. So I've just put a bit of plastic card that I cut to size in there, and it sits neatly on the end, which I'm going to brace up a bit better because it's not the best of fit in there. And also I'm going to detail it up and add some extra bits of terrain and things on top of it as well. So yeah, that's the general overview in there. I'll switch back to the top view, which we've got there. Hooray! Technology's working. Oh, hi Graham, thanks for clapping your hands and saying that you can hear me. Good stuff. So that's the first interesting thing about YouTube these days. Obviously I've been posting YouTube videos for something like 9 years or something. I was posting back when you used to have to use a 2400 baud modem and a Casio watch for filming, but it's and I've grown my audience enormously over the years to the fact that now it only takes me about 6 months to get 200 views on a video. Yeah, so in regard to Facebook, if you post in a community on there of like-minded individuals, you'll find that you get hundreds of views instantly. So a sort of completely different sort of profile where it's more community driven than YouTube. But the Facebook tools for streaming are a bit primitive, and you can't see what people type. It goes off the bottom of the screen. So anyway, enough about that. So if I point out some different areas in here, I'll use a paintbrush. So the first thing when I was building this, obviously there was a sort of skin that goes on the inside that's made of cardboard. So once you put the main MDF structure together, you put the sort of skin inside, and there's windows along the back. Now, there is a bit of an issue with this. If I zoom right in, well, issues, you know, it's something you can still deal with. And that's that they don't have, obviously, any glass or plastic in them, and they're clear. Now, for the average gamer, you'd probably be fine, actually. You could spray all inside with some colour and leave those empty. And you could use the theatre of the mind to register the fact that there is some glass there that you can just see through. But I'm going to use some plastic, and I've got some old bits of plastic card. I've also got, which I've had for a while, it's getting a bit scrappy now, but that's probably a reasonably good thing, some of this clear, what do you call it, acetate? There's so many names for different plastics, and I do get confused by them all, but there's some see-through plastic stuff, and transparent even. And you can see if you put it up against the windows, I'm going to be able to create small windows there. In fact, I could put the whole piece across the back, or I could individually cut something that fits just slightly over there. Now, of course, because you want to make it quite robust, I was thinking I'd probably put sheet across the whole lot, but in one go. But of course, that's going to make the inside look a bit unusual with bright, shiny patches here. Someone on the Facebook group, when I was doing it, said, why don't you sandwich this in between the card and the building? And of course, that would have been a reasonable approach. Of course, you'd have to sort of cut it to shape so that you didn't go into these doors, and that you kept the shape around the window sections in here. And that would have really been a good, strong bond as well, because the whole frame would have clamped it together. And the glass bit would have been then in front of the detail. The only thing with that is, of course, then you've got to think about when you spray it. So, because this is live, and I was live doing it the other day, I just got stuck in. And then halfway through, sort of go, oh yeah, wouldn't that be a great idea to put it in? But it's too late. I'd already put the card in the middle, in the inside, and therefore the option of sliding that between layers was gone. However, you could do that. I would suggest you'd only do it after you've sprayed. So if you were building this from scratch, get a can of black spray once you've got to this sort of shell stage, spray it all up before you put those window sections in. Then you can sandwich this in between without having to go around and mask off every window. Now, you may enjoy masking off windows. Some people find that quite good fun, to go around, mask and then spray. I sort of was put off the idea of doing all that, wanted to be quick. So now the result now is that I'm going to have to cut this to size and then just put up with the fact that I'm probably going to have a strip of the acetate plastic running from one side to another, and then like a strip down here as well, covering the different areas. Probably don't need to do it in the bottom of this section because it's going to be hidden behind this outside box that they do, a little door section. And so yeah, that'll be hidden away. I'm never going to need to put any glass along those bits. And if you put it on the other side, I think just you're going too far for what's essentially a bit of War Games terrain. But there's no harm, is there, in like super detailing and going that bit further if you've got the time. Now, just a bit of further talk about the build, which I didn't do on the last video. There is this gangway inside, and one tip, of course, what's not clear from the instructions, I should grab the instructions. But if we look at the section on the instructions where they tell you to put the gangway in here, when I looked at this and the way it was orientated on the page, I thought gangway fitting along this back section here, and for some reason I thought that this would align then with this back along here, and therefore that the ladder should be also at that end. It turned out that the way these holes were in the plank, the ladder needed to go at the other end compared to what the picture was showing me. Now, it could have just been a schoolboy sort of error I made while I was doing it, but when I first did it, I thought, oh, hang on, the way it was all looking, it looked like this ladder was going to orientate itself directly in front of a window on this side. It didn't make much sense. So just a sort of momentary dry build is what to do really, is with that, is to sort of put it together and then try and frame that in there to see which end it goes on, because it did just take a couple of moments for me to work out that the ladder needed to be on the outside there and not at the back. Yeah, I mean, things like that happen. Of course, the other thing about the inside of here is it's cardboard, so you just got to be careful with it. And I made a couple of issues in that I punched through there by mistake with a tool, and of course I have touched other sections of this, and it's very fragile because it is just paper, card paper. Same with these doors, so good firm whack on there and it can open, and of course you can use that in the game if you like, if you want them open. What I showed on the video the other day, which I'm still going to do, reaching over, pulling stuff out. I have these doors from Ground Zero Games, and my intention was to sort of fit them into that area. They're a bit proud, so I might need to nip off a section, and of course it also leaves behind a small bit of the door behind. So I'm in two minds. Do I cut a bit of plastic card and pop it in there and then put the door on proud? I mean, that looks fine. That's how John G has designed these. They're designed to go flush on the outside of a building like this, and then provide all the detail rather than going in flush. Obviously the fit's not perfect. There is another one that is a better fit in the pack from Ground Zero Games. I think it needed very little in the way of adjustment to get it in. You may need to, yeah, it goes in basically. Probably just needs a little bit of a clip down one side. You can see it's still proud and still has that problem where you're leaving behind some of that cardboard that could get punched through accidentally if you're not careful. So yeah, now just looking that through, and while I'm working on this, obviously I'm live, so all sorts of ideas come into my head that I jump to without proper thinking about it. But I'll probably put some plastic card in This size looks correct. What is this? 1 mil? Maybe it's 2 mil. I think that is 1.5 mil plastic card. Only because I've got nothing more accurate than what's on this board down here. Yeah, I think that's 1.5. So yeah, that's the sort of size that I'm going to use on there. Yeah, and I'll build that into these different doors. Where I might not need to do it, if I can find the smaller doors. Praise that the doors are in another easy to find packet. Pause them out. So there it goes. One door's bumped and jumped out on me. So there's a bulkhead style door here, and you can see that's not a good fit for the smaller door frames. But there is this door. It's kind of like Doctor Who style door, doesn't it? And it has the convenient size to be able to completely cover that as neatly as possible. And that's not going to need any modification. Some glue on there, and that will go on over that door. And in fact, those two lips actually help it stay on. So it'll be glued in with some glue along the top, on those two side lips, and then along the bottom. And you're away. So yeah. So those are going to be used. I know I've got about half a dozen of these somewhere to do this building. It's just classic. I've got a lot of metal work around here without knowing which bag it came out of. Yeah, and these are all the kind of extra details I'm going to do on the building as well, around the roof and things, and on the sides. Just these slight sort of sci-fi looking add-ons. Ground Zero Games, that one. Got some classic air conditioners there. Solar panels. Filters, extractors. And these hatches. That's one of the things I was not sure about for the roof section. This bit of plastic card that I've made to sit into the roof. I was wondering, do I just put like a hatch on there, which kind of saves space terrain-wise, but also from Brigade models in the UK, I have this, which is it's a doorway into something, or it could just be a container, but it looks handy. You put it up against the side. Oops, that's on the wrong end. Yeah, put that up on the roof on the corner, and you've got essentially a doorway leading down to the level below. Obviously, you don't need to put detail underneath. And also, the other convenient thing of this is that once that's nicely glued on there, it's going to be one of the firmest pieces to be able to lift that roof off if you want access inside. Yeah, and of course, it's quite nice to line up troops along this window. There is, interestingly, on both sides, there were these sections that were these small mounts, and there's some hanging off the edge of this walkway and in the back here as well. Now, there wasn't anything clear in the pack to fit there, so I don't know what those are for or where they're going, but they're in there, and you could put a whole sheet in to give this whole section a floor, but it's a bit unusual. Why would you give a whole floor section in there in a warehouse style? And particularly when you've already got a gangway. So I think you could put some piping or something detailing along there. At the moment I'm undecided whether I should put piping on. But I have some of this plastic card, again another handy thing to have around. And this is a piping type one. And that allows you to go along there and put that in there as an edge. So that's really useful as well. So that is handy. Okay, so I'm going to start doing some work on this now, and what that means is I may actually switch to the airbrush at some point to give it a base coat as well, but Again, I'm just going to do a dry build to remind myself of this roof section and things again. So, oh, here's a handy tip for you as well. When when you're doing this, what you need to do is be able to cut along the edge here if you're going to create your own version of the roof like I have, because you had these triangular sections hanging up here. Now, I did one daft thing first of all, which is I thought I'd saw that. I've got a hobby saw like this one, and I started to work along there in extreme detail, trying to saw very slowly through and causing an awful lot of this fibre dust to go everywhere, which isn't very good for your health either, I understand. And then on this side, I went, hang on a minute, what am I doing sawing? And I just used a good strong pair of scissors, these ones. In fact, they're not even that big, but I went through here and fantastic result, just a very clean edge. Now, of course, it's not perfect. It's not absolutely straight. But compared to that one where I was hacking away with the saw and causing all sorts of damage and grief, much better. So yeah, when you're at this sort of scale with MDF, a good strong pair of scissors will cut through. I can now demonstrate that on one of the cut-off sections here. This is the one that I roughly sawed off, but you can see if you just take a pair of scissors, you can actually cut all the way through neatly. And you end up with a reasonable edge. I mean, what you could do to seal the edge to stop it fraying anymore is to just use some white glue that you'd normally use to build the rest of the structure as well. Just some white glue on the edge to seal it, which I'll probably do on these bits here. Right, I need a drink because I've been going for a long time there now. Right, switch back to me. Yes, so having my drink. Wow, talking for a long time is hard. Next up, I'm going to start gluing on some of the details. I'm thinking about mounting on a base as well. I do have a base for it, so that the whole structure comes together. Although I'm a bit reticent to go early on to putting it onto a full mounted base because it just suddenly becomes more cumbersome to move around and things in front of me. But I might do that because it will allow me to start to add those doors and details around the edge. I'm not going to put that acetate plastic in yet because I want to spray the whole thing before I put plastic on. So that's going to come a bit later. And I will start to detail up that piece of plastic card that goes on the top and make some better mounts for how it fits on there too. So yeah, that's what I'm going to get stuck into. So switching back down again. Wrong picture. That one. Okay, got there. Oh, excuse me for drinking loads there. Okay, so there's the beast. What I'm going to start on now is I'm going to improve how this mounts on there. So as you can see with this larger piece, it has a couple of key sort of nodule areas, which I shall rests on there in these brackets. So they are little brackets, and therefore when it goes in, that is actually enough to hold it quite strong in there. With this section, the way I probably could have made this a bit longer, but I don't have a bracket, and it's probably a millimetre shy size-wise. I wasn't very scientific with my cutting, so could end up with that kind of thing happening. So to avoid that, I'm going to put some plastic card along the top of the inside. So I'm going to find something suitable for that in just a moment. As I dig through various different bits and pieces. Yeah, so I have a stack of this varied sized plastic card, and they do it in all these different sizes of rods. They're very useful actually for these are triangular ones. That's quite nice. SCIFI, you could use that as the edge of a sort of car park or something, although that would be too big a scale for 15mm. Got various different options there. And of course I should have prepared this earlier, but I didn't. But I've just found something I think is going to be about right. A couple of different options there. One of them a bit finer, one of them maybe a bit more robust. Now there's an interesting one I should pull out. Yeah, so I have your raised steel joist style piece there, and then a very small version of a raised steel joist RSJ or I-bar. I don't know which different countries use different names for these, obviously. And then I have some square section as well. And this one's quite nice and chunky. And if I line some up in there, it's going to go just below the level of the cardboard. And that's quite a neat fit. It doesn't extend down over the window. I will still obviously need to put the plastic for the window on there, but that should fit because it'll have places to glue on the side here and across here, because I'll put one sheet across that area. And I think it's going to provide enough of a platform on top for it to rest the plastic card without needing any extra detail. So again, I'm not really being at all scientific. I'm going to find my cutter. When I say cutter, I mean scalpel. That needs a new blade. Look at that. Obviously I'm live, so I'm not going to change it, but normally when I start to look at a blade that's looking that gummy, it's time to... I've used, and the reason it's gummy is I've used it to open boxes. The sellotape's got on there, and obviously that only blunts it. So yeah, my unscientific methodology here is that I'm going to stick it in there. I'm going to try and zoom in as well. I'll get a little bit better focus down there. That might be a bit better. And just mark the other side. So, because I don't want it to have to go, well, I could, again, depends how detailed you are. How flush do you want it to go? I'm not too worried, and I don't want to have to. Well, of course, you can always just trim it down, can't you? That's the way to do it. So I've marked that. Now, this is plastic card, and what that means, or styrene rod, I think they call it. First thing I'm going to have to do is get down close to it because my glasses can't see, so I'm going to go, oh no, I could move the mic down. Oh, you're moving down with me. Okay, so now even with my glasses I can't see the mark I've put on. Classic. Yeah, I can see it there when I'm close enough. So you could cut through completely or saw through, but it's plastic card, and the benefit of that is that once you've scored it, mic back up to the right height again, let's move it out of the way. Once you've scored it, like I have there, and refocuses, you just snap it. Click. And you get pretty much a good end. I mean, you can see that's not a perfect finish. But plastic card is all about score and then clicking. It's to save you sawing away at it. So let's see how that fits. So that's good enough for me. He says, trying to rest it in there in a way that makes it visible. So yeah, again, this isn't fine. This isn't showcase diorama stuff I'm doing here. This is just get it in there, make it not look too obvious, and then glue it down. So yeah, that's fine by me. So now, of course, knowing the other side is the same, all I need to do is mark up the next piece in the same way. Get my head down there again because literally my glasses only work at that sort of distance. So a nice deep score, and then it should crack again. So I now have two badly finished sticks of styrene rod. but they are going to do the job. Okay. So on the other side, it's going to be the same thing up on the inside there. So right, better glue it then. So what glue am I going to use? Well, since this is styrene rod, I believe super glue is the best stuff. It doesn't like the Games Workshop style stuff, the glue that melts the plastic. I don't think that reacts with the styrene rod. So I could use white glue. The rest of the building's been built with white glue. But I'm just not sure how long that would last with white glue. I have built plasticky things before with white glue, and it's just cracked off eventually. It's not enjoyed. It's not formed much of a bond. So yeah, I'm not sponsored by Gorilla. I mean, I'm not sponsored by anything because this is the most niche channel I think on YouTube. Although I have seen more niche. Although I call it more niche, I saw a Tetris competition the other day. And obviously far more popular than my channel, but I did think, wow, that's niche, watching live Tetris played. And they weren't playing like a super up-to-date version, it was just the basic Tetris in the World Championship. It was quite thrilling viewing. I found myself, it must have been down to the, that American-style commentary where they're going, and the guy's just about to flip in a square cube, he's nearly got Tetris. And they were howling when they were near to the end of the competition. So it was amazing how thrilling watching someone else play a computer game is. So, yeah, so now I've got something with glue all over it and no easy way to put it in. And also on the camera at the same time. So, obviously I'm doing this all for you guys. So, annoyingly, I haven't got that high enough up towards the lip. I still haven't, and that's now going to be dry. No, I've still got a little bit of play. Oh. You know the deal, even though this is just a hidden bit of detail. If I didn't do it right, it wouldn't provide the support, and then also you might end up with a base up there that rocked or something, just would annoy you. Well, it would annoy me when I was gaming. So that's that. And then I just need to do the one on the other side with more super glue. This is the Gorilla Glue gel glue, which means, for me at least, it just means it's not going to run around quite as much. Yeah, so interesting things I could do here when I was doing this is I could, for example, put this on with a pair of tweezers or some other method to allow me to push this against the side. Even if I had nails, that might help. Oh, hi Fred, hi Timothy, and is that Mitchell? Would you be doing this as a mini-series? Let me glue that on before I answer that. It does allow for a bit of play before it's locked on. I'll tell you what, the biggest problem I've got here is I can't see it because my glasses aren't working that far away. Yeah, I mean that glues fast. That glues fast because it's just being absorbed into the card. So yeah, you're either watching an expert genius at work here or a fool. I'm not quite sure what one I am, but I know as I'm doing it, I'm constantly thinking, oh, if I had a bit of time and space, I'd be holding my hands differently. And not looking so, I mean, even cutting things, you start doing it, you start thinking, why am I cutting this like this? I should be doing it a little bit more care. So that side's gone up too high, and that's doing exactly the thing that I wanted it to avoid, which is giving me a raised lip in a location I don't want a raised lip. brute force pushing it back into place and holding it fast. Well, it's okay. Now, what do I do? Put the plastic lid on just to see if it fits, even though I may risk glue. No, I don't think there's any glue. I don't think there's any glue coming out of that. Is that in focus? So, yeah, that's on. Yeah, and that's just kind of what I wanted. I'm not too worried about the sag. I mean, actually, there's no sag there, actually, because it does have a lip against the edge. So that's just gone in a lot more securely than it was before. And then with the rest of the roof, that's fine. Yeah, so just repeating again, you can see that this originally was a kit with the roof the whole way along, with the skylights type style windows that would have come up to the third rank of them there. But I took that off because I want to be able to put models up here when there's some action in the game, as a sort of rooftop fire location, really. So pop that guy away. So continuing on getting this piece detailed up, the kind of thing I was planning on doing is this rooftop entrance, although it's just like a case, isn't it, really? I mean, not a case, it's like a mini container. But I think it looks reasonable as a rooftop exit. Again, I could use one of these sort of bulkhead or hatch style in the roof, but I think that looks a bit neater. So yeah, going on there with that. Putting the top on my super glue because I don't want to be breathing that junk in. I'm a little bit intolerant to super glue, actually, after the years of using it. Well, 30 years of using this stuff. What's that stuff? It's called cyanoacrylate something. Anyway, it's not good. It makes me feel like I've got a cold for about a day afterwards. So, yeah, that's going on that corner. I've been pretty sure that I wanted that in that corner because there's actually, with this kit, I've got a lot of junk here. With this kit, underneath all this pile of junk, which I'm now going to lift up. This other problem, a tendency I have with live videos is I get loads of stuff out, I don't prepare enough. But anyway, there's walkways that are going to sit on this side. Oh no, it's the other side. On this side, and they mount on here to give access, provide access to the upper floor there. And it's like a metal frame that comes out from there and a platform. So that's going to, I thought if that was the kind of a route up, the assumption is that somewhere inside there there's another way onto the roof. But again, I'm probably reading too much detail into something that you don't really need to worry too much about the fact that there needs to be access below to a roof section, especially if you're putting a box that looks like it has an exit point. So that's on there. So what else do I want to do? Well, I want to put, that fits in there neatly, some cover, but not a high wall, but just enough cover that it sits in there like that. And then probably the same section over here too. So that very neatly actually goes on there like that. I'm now going to switch to the other camera and zoom in with it a bit so you can see what I mean there. Yeah, so you can see that's oddly bad quality of picture, isn't it? It goes all dark there. Moves the light out, twist the building round, maybe there'll be a bit more light. Okay, there you go. So yeah, these are N-scale model railway bits and pieces that I've picked up over the years, and to go along the sort of side of a bridge or something. But they're about the right size for 15mm, and they fit there neatly. Obviously that's too long, so I'm going to need to cut that down, but it does fit neatly in the end. Corner's not perfect, but we can assume that structurally, whoever put this together, maybe they were in a hurry, so they haven't been able to sort of perfectly weld this up. They've got these in modular sections. I'm then going to have to cut one of those down. So I need to now look at what that looks like with that roof section on. So let's do that. So putting the roof on. So have I done that right? No, I haven't gone back as far as that should go back. I'm just going to whip that off. Yeah, that's better. I think I've got a sort of flush fit back there. So that's a nice flush fit. And then in with the plastic card. And then we're looking at, so I wonder if I keep the round edge at that edge or the other edge. I'm not sure. Just looking down at the chat window. Now I can read. Okay. Would you be interested in doing a mini-series on how to make your own war game? I'd love to see something like that. Yeah, I could do something along those lines. At the moment with Grunts version 2, we're doing a... every Saturday morning we're doing the play test, and then we review during the week adjustments to the rules and tweaks. And that looks like quite a neat fit. I think I'm going to go along the back end of that joint there. Yes, so I could do something like that. Yes, definitely. I've got better pincers than this. Isn't it annoying when you don't have your best tools to hand? There, I've got a great pair of pincers. It's great having a good pair of pincers. These are side cutters by Tamiya. So just going back on there again, totally unscientific here. I'm just thinking, where am I going to cut that back? You know, if I was really clever, I could probably cut it so that it had an angle, didn't it, against that window there, using that side. So yeah, so it sort of ended there and went up that way. So look at this, talk about brutal. I'm just going to go on and do it, and then care about it later. And if the angle's not right, I'll trim it down. Was that one shot? That terrible cut. There you go. So yeah, so at first glance, puts it in, dry build, you can see it's too long, and then just trims it down. Yeah, don't ever watch a video of me making furnishings or something. That'd be it'll be a bodge. It's nearly there. It's nearly there. Let's get in a bit closer, see if you can see it. Yeah. So obviously I don't want to lift it. I don't want it lifting up there. I think I have a good enough fit there. I think I have a good enough fit. So a bit of a dry setup again. Put the other piece in. Put the little rooftop exit on. Yeah, so I had other ideas about how to clean up the fact that I'd hacked at this piece. And that included actually doing something like I did earlier with the sort of rod, by maybe putting a piece of rod across there, styrene rod or something to finish, to trim the top. Although it's so messy, it'll glue on a bit strangely. I might find that I just make that look a bit like it's been damaged. Maybe I could even damage it more. That's the way I roll, really. Do something bad and then just resolve it by making it look like a bit of a damaged section, like the way I'd punched accidentally through one of these small windows on the side. I'm not worried about repairing it. It will just be a bit of broken window. So yeah, I'm going to get my face down here now, so I might go a bit quiet because I'm a bit like a doctor now. Let me get in close to see whether anything extra needs to be done with that, but I don't think I do need to do anything more. I think that's a reasonable fit. Yeah, and is there any cleanup needed on anything like this? That's the other thing. Probably, I don't like sanding resin. I don't mind clipping bits off that are a bit troublesome. But indoors, sorry, mic was down low. When you're indoors, I'm not a big fan of doing that because you don't want to breathe this junk in. Yeah, let me switch back then to number 1 so you can see what I'm doing. So yeah, all I'm doing is the classic, there's an edge on here that I haven't trimmed off. I mean, it's not totally necessary. Yeah, this was from Brigade Models in the UK. They do a nice detail set, actually. It includes things like toilets and bits and pieces. Which, of course, I thought I had to hand somewhere, but... I think I found something. Yeah, I think that's one of the detailing kits. You've got kind of a cash point thing, ATM. There's another one of these that I've got around, and it has like a toilet cubicle and benches and other bits and pieces. So that's quite a nice large air vent section there. So yeah, I've just cleaned up the edge of that, and there's more cleanup now, and you know how you start on these things and then you just keep on going. Yeah, I mean, ideally, what I'd normally do with resin is I'd wash it in soapy water, but I'd do that after I'd done the cleanup, so just to remove any more dust that I'd created. And also I have a kind of a disc sander thing mounted in the garage, and I might go in there outdoor with the garage door open and blast a side or a bottom of a bit of resin with a mask on to clean it up. Of course, the other thing is cleaning this stuff up is good practice to make it sort of tidier, but there's nothing to say that people are going to really notice this kind of level of tidy up when they're working on it, when they're gaming on it. So there's a bit of trim there, and again, it's like, do I care? But I'm doing it. Tough, too late. It's going everywhere across this workbench as well. Tiny little bit of trim there. I think that's fine. So there we have the beginnings of an extra piece of detail. and I'm quite pleased with the way that the I just trimmed that down at an angle so that you can fit it against there. It's leaning out now, but yeah, that's not bad. Obviously, yeah, I did think about, positioning. Could I put that in the middle? Should I put it on the edge? But given that it sort of then forms a neat perimeter in that position, it's kind of looks neater. And of course, the other thing is when you're at this stage, it kind of does look very unfinished because you've got a white top and everything. So options for here. I've got various options. This is corrugated plastic. This is N scale. I mean, just do a search on it, and it has the corrugated sheeting like that. So you can obviously cut this to size. You could make this look like it's all sort of piece of corrugated junk. You could decide to give this a corrugated section of roof, or I was thinking when I got this, I was thinking, oh, maybe some people, the glass has gone, and then to recover it, or repair it, they just put some corrugated iron or whatever, corrugated plastic, cut to size up a couple of the windows, and then you could rust this up. And it would look like, you had some broken windows, and then somewhere people had decided to put a piece of roofing on because they couldn't get the original glass, if it was that kind of slightly run down location that's being used as a base or something. So that's one option up there. The other stuff that's really good, which I'm going to show you, this is now turning into a crochet channel warning, alert crochet crafts, but this is crochet sheeting, and this is, I think they call it 14 stitch or something. They do another one, which I've got, and I can't see it to hand, but they do another one which is great for 28mm. This is better for 15. If I zoom in on that, it might just zoom in and allow you to see it a bit better. But it's like a grill. It's a plastic bendy grill, and obviously you do your crochet work through there. But if you get the one, I think it's called 7 stitch or 7 point, it's much larger, and that would be okay as metal work in 28mm, or as larger decorative paneling or repair work on the side of this, but it doesn't look like metal plating, the larger scale one. So that could go in there. So once I've glued these on, I'll then do my bodge again, where I just cut some of this out to cover that surface. Now what I'll probably do before then is add a couple of more things to it. Some of these roofing, bits of detail. So yeah, a bit more of a dry build option here. So maybe I put that. In fact, I could go as far as to put a vent on the top of the grill or something on the top of that. It doesn't go flush with the detail under there. Maybe just a couple together. Things work together in pairs well. So it could be something like that, or maybe a bit closer together. Again, with those in a slightly different colour to the floor. Now, one thing I'm doing with that is creating myself problems, aren't I? Because if I'm going to try and cut this sheeting out to fit, it's going to be a bit of a mare, isn't it, to cut around those. And again, I'm all for making it as convenient as possible. So now dives back into the pack for some square-based ceiling vents. Now here you go, here's some interesting ones. These are from the Scene in the UK, and they are nice and square. Well, apart from the fact they need a bit of clean up, and so here we go straight to the clippers. I'm going now for a rougher pair of clippers because this is some cheap stuff. See those, I can put those next to each other. They've come slightly in the mould, they've come slightly warped. Put my finger on there to avoid this going all around the room. Throws those out of the way. Bit of scalpel work. Bit like record decks or something. But yeah, a couple of those together, and then you've got an extra bit of added detail. Maybe this sort of thing in the corner, and I'm not having to cut my metal deck plate in too much detail. I also wonder with the the plating whether I should do it at an angle. It's measured in counts on the plastic sheeting. Yeah, thanks, Graham. Hello, Crazy Major. Thanks for joining in. Yeah, so that'll be an interesting question to the group. Obviously, from a construction of a building perspective, they would have got up on top and put the plate in that angle, but I was just tempted to put it at that sort of angle, so the dots go. Does that look any different? I doubt it does. No, I'm just going to cut it to size like this. So before I cut it to size, I am going to commit on these other items. I don't want too much up there. I think having the plates and the metal walling, I'm not sure what to do here actually now. Looks at that. I'm tempted to build up there as well. I'll tell you what might work for that. This Ground Zero game stowage, that might build up this section here, so I don't have to worry about there not being a wall, and it just cleaned it up. So this is some sort of, get close in on that, power cube or something. I wonder if two of those are going to fit neatly into that side of the building. Right, I'm just going to also, I'm going to have a moment too, and sorry about the fact, because it's live, you're going to have to put up with me doing it, but I'm going to get rid of some of this junk. Oh, there it is. Oh, there you go. When you're getting rid of the junk, you see things. Now, this is the Brigade Models 15mm detailing. I think that's just like a poster display, town posters, aren't they? You could put them in there. Nice, always nice to have a few posters printed. That's a toilet cubicle. One of those automatic ones. You get them in the UK. Probably get them all over the world. You press a button on there, the door slides open, you go in, it shuts on you, and you sleep there for the night. They also have, has ever anybody in one of these that auto clean? There used to be one in Brighton and it got ruined. It was actually a scary thing going in there, but it was one of these ones that the entire floor would kind of lift off or something when you climbed out. And, dreadful thoughts of what if I got trapped in here and it went into cleaning cycle mode, that you'd be, sprayed with cleaning fluid, crap coming out of the toilet, God knows what. And he does little benches and things as well. Now that would be interesting. There's always a sofa in a back street or something, isn't there? So, but an abandoned sofa somewhere, maybe even on the roof. If this was a post-apocalyptic setting, and I always like to make my terrain as adaptable as possible. So yeah, you might end up saying, oh, I could use this in post-apocalyptic, or also use it in like a war-torn modern setting or whatever. You might want a sofa on there that the troops rest on while they're on their watch duty or what have you. Yeah, so those are the other bits and pieces that brigade models do, in addition to their roofing vents. The only thing I'd say about their roof vent piece is that's quite large, isn't it? But there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's a good size. It would fit on a larger space if I had it. But on here, that will take too much room up, and I think I've got enough on there. So right, back to the cleaning up of junk. Now these are interesting. These are windows, so I must stop talking. Let me get rid of those. Larger vent sections. Solar panels. An old Crow dropship. What is that doing in there? Loads of bits of it. Look what happens to resin over the years. It takes on this kind of really creamy yellow hue. Yeah, sorry, yeah, this is the cleaning up bit where I've realised halfway through and my workstation has become a disastrous mess. And this last bit, I'm going to scoop it up. I can almost breathe now, I've got a bit more room. Yeah, these I've been using handy in amongst these normal pegs as well for gripping when you're doing the MDF. I'll just shove those out of the way in there. Right, back to this. Okay, so now I can move this whole thing into the frame. Some minor improvement in layout. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to probably put a couple of these boxes side by side. So I'm going to just wiggle that one off the sprue. Yeah, I like that detailing. It's like got a kind of what looks like a tub or something inside. And pressurized sort of something in there with the control panel. Oh, this one hasn't got a control panel, so this one has some sort of pressurized unit in there. And the other one in that set has a control panel on it. It does have sort of feet of sorts as well along the bottom. So, minor cleanup. So will they fit in there neatly side by side? Yeah, they will. And a little bit of a gap between them is okay too. Then these pieces here. And this, in fact, this is another N-scale piece that I had sitting around. It's a pallet. Oops, in N-scale, what's gone in there? In N-scale, that's quite quite fine detail, really. And the problem with that being is you just don't really see it when you're gaming in 15mm. Here's a comment on 15mm recently. I've had a couple of bits of resin models from different people come in, and the like Jeeps and bits and pieces. And I haven't even wanted to do videos on them because they are so big. They're even bigger than 20mm. I'd say actually they're 22mm. A couple of Jeeps and things, and just I don't know what they were thinking when they were making them. Maybe I think with the recent, everything from the Mad Max movie that then got everybody back into looking at car wars type games. There's been a lot of activity around creating models for that scale, and that is the kind of Hot Wheels Matchbox size. And it's just meant that people building those are kind of scaling up their scale, and maybe they're trying to sell things as 15mm when really they're more like 22mm for the Matchbox Hot Wheels kind of style gaming. More drink needed. Right. I'm going to glue. Switch into glue mode. So I thought I would glue it while it's in there, because the classic is I'd whip this off, glue on that bit, put it back in and find that I've pushed this out too far on the side. And therefore the whole thing doesn't nestle back in neatly. And since this is the kind of masterpiece, it's the one I'm going for first. Everything else has to sort of fit around it. So super glue again. Don't want to go too overboard with the super glue. What was it with super glue? I mean, I don't know if people saw this, had this in America or the rest of Europe, but when it was launched, there were this whole marketing campaign, which they don't do anymore. It's gone. But back in the day, in the UK, in the 1980s, there was a TV advert every 10 minutes telling you the benefits of superglue. And what they would do is they would film people supergluing themselves to a side of a piece of board or wood, and then flying up in a helicopter with the guy stuck to the side of a piece of wooden board and then on a chain from the helicopter, saying, look how amazing this glue is, super glue, it's not just normal glue. So in the UK, this kind of glue is all called super glue because we've been brought up on this whole advertising campaign that there's this certain kind of glue called super glue, and it doesn't matter what brand you buy, you're stuck with it being called super glue. And this range of adverts which they used to do with crazy things, they used to have this muscle man as well that would get a piece of rubber piping, thick, well, not very thick, rubber piping about that long, about that diameter. He would cut it with a knife and then get the tiniest blob of super glue, I mean just a tiny bit of super glue, and then glue the two pieces together and then do various exercises on it with his whole body weight, where the glue had brought the thing back together. And to be fair, I think it was a bit of a myth because, you know, I don't know, everybody that's done miniature gaming, you've probably experienced legs and limbs and things popping off that were on with super glue, and you think to yourself, well, I certainly wouldn't stick myself to the side of a helicopter with that and trust it, since the small limb of a 15mm model has just fallen off that was super glued on. But I think it's material science, isn't it? Some things do glue better than others, and that is now rock solid on there instantly. So the combination of that resin going onto that styrene card, it's gone on about as tight as it could possibly do. That's interesting. Went down to the floor, found something else that I like. So this is the scene in the UK again, and another air vent. But this one's interesting that it's a vertical aircon unit. And again, it looks suitably, I mean, what an aircon unit is an aircon unit, isn't it, with a vent? But that's kind of almost a freestanding one, but it would look very nice up against the side of a building. It's not going to look particularly useful on the top, somewhere like that. Right, must get on with this. So next bit is this section. So that is such a good fit that it's almost uncanny. So what I'm going to do with this, again, I'm going to leave that bit in the end just to buff up against it, and I'm going to build it on the structure and glue along the back of this. I don't want the glue splurging out. I don't mind it gluing up against the side of the resin exit point. but I don't want it going up against the wood necessarily, the super glue. Yeah, I just glued that the wrong way around, but never mind. So rather than leave that in there, I am going to lift it. Just to make sure it's flush, as things come flying off. Yeah, to make sure it's flush, and yeah, it's not gluing so good at that end. It's probably due to me not cleaning it up properly underneath, but I think to put too much pressure on here now, the whole thing will pop off and I'll get glue over myself. Seems to be holding now. So we'll pop it back in now, carefully. So again, you can see those bits that I've put as the braces underneath. Bring that back into focus, yeah. Yeah, so gaming-wise, I wanted this to be easily removable, but at the same time, it's when you're in the game, I'm not going to be necessarily popping that lid off every 5 minutes. So, right, I'll just go on with this one now as well. Yeah, so this is like a new approach to filming that I've been doing, where I'm doing live streaming, but also, I mean, it's quite involved, but also very slow. And it goes totally against everything that YouTube say to you to, you've got to do snappy, punchy videos that last 10 minutes and make your point. And in fact, there's a lot of content on YouTube like that, isn't there? There's a tech channel, I can't remember what it's called, but the chap, I mean, he does the lightest of unboxing ever, in that none of his videos seem to be more than just an introduction to something, and you're kind of looking for, reaching out for the content, saying, tell me more about this, whatever it is that you've got, because you're not giving me enough information. He'll unbox the latest Samsung phone or whatever it is he happens to be working on, or I've had sent to him for a review, and so that's not perfect, but there's a bit too much glue on there. Get a stick. But of course he gets millions of hits because he's got the latest tech before anybody else has got it. Everybody's, it's clickbait, isn't it? You're watching it, but ultimately you just see a box opened and then 5 minutes chat about how amazing whatever it is he is showing you. I'm the totally opposite of that. This is a bit like watching paint dry. So that was for the wallpaper paste. The rubber pipe and Strongman was super glue though. Oh, wallpaper based. Yeah, I know now, Graham. Yeah, absolutely. That memory of mine's blurred into like kind of a Blue Peter phase of my life, with adverts and Blue Peter merging together into one kind of practical wallpaper paste advert. The rubber pipe and Strongman was super glue though, yeah. Maybe worth investing in some super glue accelerator. I've got that, but I find it makes it crusty. In fact, it was John at GZG that introduced me to it on his stand. And one thing about it, let me see if I can find it. You know what? I know where it is, but it's like way behind in a box. But yeah, I've got a can of it in a spray that comes in about this size, and you can spray it. But what I do is decant it. So I would spray a bit into a kind of little metal tray, and then I would use, if I was building 6mm or 15mm, I'd then put some so that I get a drop on the end of the cocktail stick, and drop it onto the other part, and then the super glue will be one part of the vehicle, press it together, and it does accelerate it. But I did find that sometimes it made the super glue a bit crusty and not as strong as it could be, but I don't know. The reality of that, again, I mean, if you're putting a tank turret on a 6mm vehicle, how strong does it need to be? Right, super glue again. So on the one hand, I'm thinking it's great that John has had this detail added where you get essentially tiny little feet on the bottom of these stowage options. But the problem with that, of course, is that's your glue point, and it's not a very strong bond to be gluing just those 4 tiny feet on. So this is the one with the gas canister stuff. This one maybe has a bit more. Or maybe I've just got that one around the wrong way with its dots. Just making sure again that I can lift it. Now I think I know what I'm going to do here. I'm going to strengthen that. The other thing I can do is zoom in a bit more. Hey, that's better. I think I'm going to strengthen that by putting in that corner there, and in that corner. Oh, not that corner because that's the doorway. But get one of these other stowage boxes. And again, detail-wise, if this was done in a nice pale blue or something with some rust chipping on, and was on this roof section, it's just another bit of added detail. But yeah, that goes in the corner, and I add glue to its base and glue to its sides. It will really strengthen the bond on there of those 2 bits. It's kind of hidden out of the way, and it's an extra interesting detail. So it ticks all those boxes. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to splash some glue on the bottom of it. Put it there, so yeah, just splat some on the bottom. And then put some in a couple of cornery bits in here. Cornery bits, that's the technical phrase for the... That's way too much glue, that's going to like stink me out big time, but there we go. And remarkably, it's almost exactly the same height. It's the strangest of things when you start working with materials like this, that things just seem to fit together quite neatly when it's unexpected. So there we go, we've got, oh, put it into frame. Oh, I've just poked in another window. That is a problem with this kit. If you're handling it for a while, you do end up putting your fingers on the cardboard windows. So yeah, I mean, in terms of overall kit review, it is disappointing that there was no plastic in here. Now, obviously, as a modeler, I'm forever getting bits of plastic like this off things that I've bought that you can use. And obviously that's, you need to sort of store these up, don't you, or use them as paint trays or whatever you're going to use them for. But obviously you can cut that to make those windows. But what I know is that these are obviously Sarissa. The foreground guys, because I've made a lot of their buildings as well, they do provide plastic. When they've got a kit with windows, they provide the plastic for you to put in as well. So, but obviously with this this kit, they haven't done that. I mean, it's not the end of the world, because like I say, you normally have some stuff around. I have this old sheeting, which I'm going to put inside these various sections. And I'm still in half a mind now that I showed you that corrugated iron I've got, which I don't. Oh, there it is. Very tempted to put patches of corrugated iron on a couple of windows, like 2 windows there or something, and up here. In fact, that is very interesting, because it does also provide another location, doesn't it, for placing models if you wanted them at an angle on the roof. You could have just a couple of sections patched over there to allow models to move, but actually probably a bit too fussy. Probably going to put the glass all the way in. And also I'm going to do this roof section in a slightly different spray airbrush colour to the rest of the building, so that this framework is highlighted out in a slightly lighter colour, I think. So there we go. And I just broke my rule, because when I was going to put this material on for the metal plating, I said I wasn't going to put any rounded sections on, because that means I'm going to have to cut out to that round bit, but never mind. You don't need to go right up to the edge. Right, so to be able to do that, I need to get rid of this. Still going to be using that resin piece to lift it off. And see about cutting this to size. Make some room again amongst all the mess and half-built junk. There's some more stuff to get rid of here. Right, super glue, lid out of the way. Styrene rod, not in use, get that out of the way. So how clever do I want to be? I'm going to bodge it again, because it's you know, miniature stuff, isn't it? It's not. I'm not here to do a massive diorama. There's my scissors. So first off, if I want to go to the edge of there, then I need to clip from about. Oops. About there. Is that right? No, let me see. Oh, much easier. Just go for the whole lot. Goes for it. No measurement, nothing. So I'm a little bit out, but I don't care. Obviously, with these spare bits, you can do anything you like with them. Don't get rid of them. They're handy for patching. In fact, a friend of mine, he actually does just patch. So he builds little fire-based things. He just cuts these into squares and puts them underneath pallets and bottles and things, just like people have temporarily thrown them down as protection on the ground. Was I out of the frame there? Probably. So that's good enough for me. I just wanted to find out where the section is that is going to be as close to the edge, but doesn't want to be really close to the edge. So there it is. Oops, probably was out of the frame again. It's quite difficult with this large sheet. So I'm just going to follow this entire section up and just cut it all out. So I've got less of a big chunk of sheeting in front of me. It's handy with the dots actually that it does mean that you can just keep on trimming and follow a sort of vague line. Ding. So I've got a gap there, and that was a flaw, but who cares? So depending on how clever I want to be with this, I'm going to measure without any kind of utensil. And it may come a little bit short, but again, it's not the end of the world. So that's a reasonable fit to me. Yes, there's a little gap there. So I think what I'm going to do with the bottle is start with a small square. Push to fit. So there's a strange nodule there that's bugging me. So yeah, so that's going to dry brush up nicely as a gridded section. Again, you could go with metalwork with a metal dry brush on it, or you could go with a different colour just because you could use a different kind of material in use there. So yeah, that's been what I'm doing tonight. I must admit, I thought I'd get further. I thought I'd start doing finishing off the detail on the building, but you know, you get taken off in these different directions. When I built the first thing, put the whole thing together, I hadn't built the roof, and then I slept on it after I did a video, and I was thinking, oh, I could really do with an area to be able to game on the roof, to provide some cover and be able to put some models as a sort of fire base, elevated fire location, and that's done it. So obviously I've got to glue that on. I'm not going to glue that on right now because I'm going to sort of wrap up before I continue on another night. Yeah, so then I was halfway through, I cut that off, and then I went, I've got to do this bit. And of course I haven't finished all of these other details that go around the side. There's a chimney that sits on top of this, and again, I'm not sure whether I'm going to use the chimney that comes in it or whether I'm going to put more of a SCIFI one on. By way of review, everything was good about this. I don't like these side vent things though. You can see they're kind of MDF vents. They were a bit tricky, not difficult to put together, but just annoying, as in they are just these three sections that form up together to form one large ventilation pipe type thing that sits on the side. Of course, when you glue them together, they have a tendency to drift around a bit, so you're trying to push them together, and then you end up with a very big, not very detailed, flat top. Whereas if you went for looking at some GZG stuff here, they do these nice side vent type things straight off here, so you could, you know, straight away you're getting something that's a little bit more interesting with a rounded pipe on the top. So I put one of those on, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll put the sort of SCIFI ones on the side instead. So if I zoom out so we can see that. Yeah, so yeah, that's in a bit more detail. You can see that, but obviously it's not the same size. If I put something like that on, it would just be higher up. You could augment it by putting a couple more on. But yeah, that's that. And again, as I say, these nice hatches, it's so tempting to put more of those on, but I'm just going to stick with the doors in these door frames. Oh, and that's the other thing. I'm not going to spray prime this until I've got all these things like doors on, so the whole thing's neatly together. Yeah, and I think that's quite a nice sort of playable area up there too. Let's just do the zoom in camera, so you can just get a kind of look around miniature wise. Where's he gone? Oh, there. So yeah, they're going to get obscured and some cover on the roof. It's going to look quite interesting when that's painted up. It's nice that it's already that kind of brown, because it kind of already given you a hint of what that might look like. I've got the roof access door, some gubbins boxes, and a barrel in the corner that was mostly just added for the fact that it's going to provide strength to that structure there, rather than me one day picking this up and finding that that this clips itself off or something, which would be annoying. And then obviously I've put down the base steel metal plating as extra detail there. And I did have some other plate. I'll tell you what I've got. You can get this entire sheet that's made of that stuff. It's not really, I don't think it's N scale or 1/100th, but it would do the job if you wanted to put some of that down instead. And these sheets are only a few quid as well. This plastic sheeting. It's just handy again, another option for metal plating. Might not be the right scale, but who cares? It will look good once it's dry brushed up. It will look like a floor, and your mind will, even though it's 15mm, will kind of work with that. But I like this gridding. I think that's going to be good once that's dried up on there, glued on and painted. So from the side, there we go. Right, so press that one. There. Okay, thanks so much for listening in. I'm now really parched. Been at this for nearly an hour or longer, I don't know. But I'll be back again. I'm trying to do this on a Sunday morning, so maybe Wednesday evening, Sunday morning that I'll do these updates, and then I'll probably have some minor progress in between each video shoot that I'll explain. Yeah, so quite pleased with this kit as it's coming on, and so I'm going to mount it on a base as well, and then detail the base out, so it's going to have quite a lot of work done on it. Be quite a nice centerpiece. So thanks for listening. I'm now going to switch off. Cheers, bye. Here I go. I'm clicking end stream now. Yes, I'm sure.